You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the May 23rd, 2023 meeting of the Michigan City Plan Commission. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
All right, good evening. I'm Gigi McCabe-Mealy. I'm actually the secretary of the Plan Commission of this board. And Larry Zimmer could not be here tonight, and so I got to take over the meeting for him. So I may ask some questions or stumble. I'm counting on Skylar and Steve Hale to keep it straight, or any of the rest of you. We'll start with just a call to order. And so I will call the roll.
I can call it for you, Gigi.
All right.
Good. Mr. Balling?
I'm here.
Mr. Dabney?
Present.
Mr. Granquist?
Here.
Mr. Klinder?
Here.
Mr. Lashford?
Here.
Miss Mealy?
Here.
Miss Tejeda?
Here.
Mr. Zimmer is absent and Mr. Hale is present. We do have a quorum tonight.
So I'm a little unclear about this on our agenda.
Right now, you'll just ask for approval of the agenda as presented tonight, and just call.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misread that. Yeah. So okay, we will start out with the approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting for this regular hybrid meeting of 5/23/2023.
Make a motion to approve. Support.
I'll call for the vote. Mr. Balling?
Yes.
Mr. Dabney?
Yes.
Mr. Granquist?
Yes.
Mr. Klinder?
Yes.
Mr. Latchford?
Yes.
Miss Mealy?
Yes.
Miss Tejeda?
Yes.
And Mr. Zimmer is absent. Motion approved.
It's easy, and I hope you've had a chance to review the minutes. We need to approve the minutes for April 25th, 2023. Okay. So are there any questions or anything anybody would like to change? If not, we'll call for an approval.
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
I'll call for the vote.
Okay.
Mr. Balling?
Yes.
Mr. Dabney?
Yes.
Mr. Granquist?
Yes.
Mr. Klinder?
Yes.
Mr. Latchford?
Yes.
Miss Mealy?
Yes.
Miss Tejeda?
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right. We'll go to the first petition. 901-23.
Yes. Yes. This is a petition 901-23. One is a request by Mike West, Green Development Ventures LLC, for primary plat approval of a 114 lot major subdivision, Woodland, to be known as Woodland Ridge subdivision, for residential development on approximately 32 acres of land located at 4842 North 900 West in Michigan City, Indiana. This is continued from 4/25/23, and I do believe the petitioners are here tonight as well. So if you guys want to come on up, I'll hand it off to you. Just so you know, Mr. White here has uploaded the things that were sent to me the other day, so they're prepared, and okay, you could show them if you like.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike West, Green Development Ventures and Alan Edwin Homes at 2186 East Center Avenue in Portage, Michigan. Also with me this evening is Steve Ruby. He's a gentleman handing out some materials today. He's with Abin Marsh. He's our engineer for the project. So thank you very much for consideration of this subdivision. We hope to have had this conversation with you last month, but there was a little technical difficulty. We got over that. We're happy to be here and looking forward to building a new subdivision here in Michigan City. I thought I'd start with just a little bit of background about Allen Edwin Homes. I don't know if all of you are familiar with us, but I thought I'd give a quick summary. We were established in 1994 in Portage, Michigan. That's where our corporate offices are located. In 2003, we added an office and a showroom up in the Grand Rapids, Michigan area in Byron Center. We currently have about 150 employees, plus or minus. We are the largest single-family home builder in Michigan. We built our 10,000th house last December. At least that's what they told us, 10,000th home last December after about 27 and a half years in business. So that was kind of a milestone they celebrated. We're on pace to build about 800 to 900 this year. Single family primarily, but we do some attached duplex and townhome product as well. We've been listed as a top 100 home builder in the United States for the last 12 years, according to Builder Magazine. We've had a Guildmaster Quality Award for 3 years in a row, 2022, 21, and 20. We have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau of West Michigan. We have ResNet certified homes that we construct in all our subdivisions. And our primary geographic area has been the southern half of the lower peninsula of Michigan, but we've also last several years come into Indiana, northern Indiana, and we're expanding that territory a little further south, a little further west, and we're thinking about going into Ohio as well. So in Indiana, we have projects right now in South Bend, Mishawaka, Elkhart, Goshen, hopefully Michigan City here later this summer. So. Just a summary of the subdivision plan. I don't know if they can pull up maybe one of the plan sheets. I can kind of walk you through. Yeah, that one right there would work. So this is just an overall layout of the subdivision. We have a 32-acre parcel under option. That subdivision design proposes 112 lots. In 3 different development phases. Phase 1 is the northern portion, lots 1 through 54. The southern portion is phase 2. That's lots 55 through 84. And then phase 3 is the easternmost portion of that property, lots 85 through 112. As far as the development schedule, we would like to be under construction of phase 1 later this year. So 2023, 2024 for phase 1. 2025, 26 for phase 2 would be an estimate, and then 2026, 2027 for phase 3. So we're looking at a 4 to 5 year, maybe 6 year build out process, assuming the economy stays, good for single family home construction. The property is owned R1C, single family. Minimum lot sizes are 7,200 square feet and 60 feet in width. All the lots meet that standard. We provided a sample portfolio of homes, which I believe Mr. Ruby passed out as well. What we look for when we look for lot widths and setbacks and so forth, most of our home product will fit on a 40-foot wide envelope. So we have 60-foot wide lots. I think under this case, we have 15 foot of total side yard setback. So we will have an envelope of 45 feet of width for homes. And that fits the majority of our portfolio. I mean, I think we have 15, 20 homes in the portfolios that we're building now that can fit in here. Mixture of ranch, 2-story, bi-level. We're looking at homes that will range from 1,400 probably up to 2,200 square feet in size, 3 to 4 bedrooms, 2 to 3 baths with a 2-car attached garage. Some of the home product will have the option for a 3rd stall garage as well. Looking at pricing starting in the upper 200s and then moving up. We're looking at that middle income price band. We do surveys of people that are buying our homes, and the majority of the people are just middle-class people. Teachers, nurses, police officers, firefighters, Amazon workers, even municipal planners. And that's a true story, by the way. After some conversations with Skylar, we did add a open space neighborhood park. I think on that plan, if you go back, it's in between lots 109 and 110 for kind of a neighborhood pocket park that arcs about 0.4 acres. It's almost the exact same size of a pocket park we're doing in a community in the Grand Rapids area with 171 units. So we will build that as a neighborhood park. We'll have a pavilion, we'll have a playground, we'll have benches, picnic tables under the pavilion, some open space area, nice gathering place for the community that lives there without necessarily a large maintenance cost, because we're sensitive to that. We've been doing this for 30 years almost, and we've noticed the bigger amenities and the larger amenities you put into these things, more difficulty it is for the association to maintain them long term. So we do things that are used, that are easy to maintain, and these small pocket parks with, you know, with places for people to gather, places for kids to swing, play, seem to be very successful, and they don't fall apart long term. What else you got here? I think Skylar, probably summarized this in his report, but we're doing public streets, public water, sanitary sewer, stormwater will be privately maintained by the HOA. We'll establish the maintenance structure for that. What else do we have here? Other than that, I don't know if there's anything else I can add at this time, but I'd be more than happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
You mentioned public streets. Are they going to be dedicated to the city then?
Yes.
Built to specs?
Yep, built to specs. I think it's 24-foot pavement with 50-foot wide right of way. We'll build them to the city specs.
I think the board members do have a lot of questions. So, and I want to preface that by saying we like the development. We like the idea of the development. But we have some questions about why here and some things about what you plan to do. And some of this may not have anything to do necessarily with anything you have to do for our benefit. We just want to know.
Oh, absolutely. I'm used to it. Yeah, fire away.
Okay. I'll let you start if you'd like.
Actually, I just have one question, and it's a clarification regarding the graphic for the pocket park. What is the horizontal division there? Is that a sidewalk? I'm just trying to. So you have a sidewalk cutting right through it.
Yep. Yeah. So what we do, if you look at the overall plan, we have that internal sidewalk loop that kind of creates a circle through that inner portion. And so that this will allow for direct access for people in the middle portion of the property to get to the park instead of going all the way around to get to the park. So there'll be a sidewalk between lots 43 and 44 that will get you to the park.
Okay, that's why it extends through.
Yes.
So people will be walking through lots 43 and 44.
There'll be a sidewalk there. Yes, correct. Yep.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask you some questions, and Larry Zimmer sent me some of the things that he was concerned about too. So I'll just kind of go through some of that. I think the overall question that we have is about locating this nice development in an area that's so remote from the rest of the city. It's a beautiful area, but it really doesn't fit in with the city grid. And I don't know that it, this suggested it, you have any amenities that, and, you know, connection to schools, buses, and I'm thinking of city buses, people that might want a bicycle and where they might, and that's a concern. Okay. So maybe you can talk about that. And you may have already had some discussions with the Department of Planning that we weren't involved with.
Yeah, I can't speak exactly what goes into the decision making for land, because what happens, we have 2 land acquisition people. That's all they do is land acquisition. They're looking at land all over the place in 3 different states. They have criteria that they look at. I know it has something to do with location to schools, location to highways. There's a series of criteria they look through for what is attractive to them, where they think the housing need is the strongest, where they look at incomes, the income price band that we're trying to reach. So all I know is this ticks all those boxes. I don't know exactly how to explain it other more than that they don't select property that doesn't meet those criteria. And we've been extremely successful on finding the properties that meet our criteria for and then meet the demand. So
So you don't know whether the city bus will come down to this area to,
that I don't know off the top of my head. I know there's a bus stop on Pause down near the school, but I don't know how that bus runs. I don't know if it runs east-west on Pause only. I don't know how it runs. So there's not much connectivity out there. There's not any sidewalks or bike lanes or anything in that area. So
that seems like a problem to me. And Skylar, I don't know if planning is talked about that in any way. Also,
It's called out in the comprehensive plan for future bikeways and pathways. The way the bus system works here, the buses go where demand is, essentially. We're on what's called a rural system rather than an urban system. So we go where demand goes, where demand demands us to go. So that's how the buses work here in the city.
We were made aware that the development is intended to have a variety of price points, potentially starting at $250,000. We're
probably more in the upper twos, but yeah, 280 maybe and up. And that usually is dictated by demand and sales in the economy, what the interest rates are doing. So that's we have usually a pretty wide spread within the same subdivision. We may have homes in the upper twos and we may have homes in the lower fours, depending on.
We do know there's a demand for affordable housing.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
why I'm asking that question.
And that's why we started that price point, because in many communities, they can't support the $450,000 or $500,000 homes that we also build as well.
Yeah.
So we try to hit that lower end of that new home market.
And the remoteness of the development, and this is again to the city and the Department of Planning to support this in some way, because it suggests that a two-parent family, two-kid family or whatever would need two cars to get anywhere, because you can't go anywhere without a car. And so that's definitely a factor.
Yeah, other than the walkability down there, it has all the other infrastructure you need. It has water and sewer, to serve that development. I know there's a lot of apartments in that area as well. So I don't know if they're served by the bus line as well, but I didn't see a lot of single family detached down that way.
I have another question for you. Is the density and the layout for this development typical for what your company does?
Yeah, we're 32 acres, 112 lots, so right around 3.5 units per acre. That's where we typically are with our single family homes and other subdivisions.
The other question I have is about accessibility. Do you market any of the properties in a way that would make them accessible to people with disabilities? And I think the main thing with any kind of housing, obviously, if the bedroom's on the second floor, if all the bedrooms are on the second floor of the basement,
right,
someone in a wheelchair is not going to get around.
Yeah.
But sometimes people do sloped walkways rather than stairs at the front to let someone in. Do you address any of those elements?
We typically don't in the initial home construction, but then they can do modifications to it. I mean, my mom lived in a ranch home that we thought she'd be able to live in there the rest of her life. The last 1.5 years, she couldn't negotiate it. So we had to install some things to try to help her. So
I know the federal standards and the state standards don't require it for single family homes, but boy, I would urge you to pay attention to that in the future, because there's lots of people who have that need, and it's growing enormously. And it's very, very easy. It's very, very simple to change things so that it works from the beginning.
Yeah.
And because the homes that we have here would not work for anybody because of the second floor bedrooms.
Well, the 2 stories and so forth would not. Yeah, but we have.
I mean, there are people, and for you trying to sell things, I promise not to lecture, but in my experience with other entities that have found that when they really make a way for people with disabilities to use things, the demand is there.
Yeah.
If you want to sell something, there are people who are not getting product because they're being ignored. And if you guys were the first ones, you might sell your houses a little faster.
Well, I don't know if we build them. We build them, hope people with disabilities come buy them, but I do know that we've custom buys them. So we've dealt with people that said, we like this lot, can you do this? And we have built that house for their needs. But it's more on a demand basis. We typically don't buy it and then wait for somebody to come. If somebody approaches us and said, we'd like to make this more barrier-free accessible, we'll modify the home plan to accommodate that for sure.
Yeah, well, I hope so. And again, on the aspect of accessible, you're aware that the park has to be meet accessibility standards as well, because that's a common element. So that would have to meet the federal standards for accessibility, as do the walkways. And I was puzzled by the walkways. Some of them are shaded in on the plan. Does that designate anything?
You mean the sidewalks?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we're proposing sidewalks on one side of the street, but having an interconnected loop through the development. So where you see the shaded sidewalk, that's where we're gonna have sidewalk. The other part of the street, we're asking for a modification from that.
And if that does not meet federal and state accessibility standards, you will be able to put sidewalks in on the other side?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if Steve can answer. I don't think a sidewalk has to meet an accessibility. I know it does at crossings.
Our standard that we gave you is an ADA.
Well, then we will meet that with the engineering construction drawings for sure.
And I wanted to just draw your attention to the fact that it's complicated when you have garages in front of every single house, because every time you have a curb cut, it's got to be flat at the sidewalk so that it's accessible.
Yeah.
So it is a complication.
Yeah, it's a typical subdivision layout. Everybody has their own private driveway. So unless, yeah.
But the street is public. So that's where it's got, and the sidewalk is public. So it's got to be accessible.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. You know, once again, people arrive and they're there and they need to get in and they need to be part of things. And there's loads and loads of people around it. But, you know, it's not always wheelchairs. Sometimes somebody's just,
Sure.
Their gait is not good. It's not strong. And those people live among us. They have to be,
I'm familiar with it. I
dealt
went
with
through
too.
it. Couple, my mom and an uncle recently. So I'm very familiar with how people are healthy one day and then not the next day.
Children too.
Yeah.
Children. Yeah. All right. I want to make sure I promised Larry I would get to his questions. And Skylar, from the standpoint of the city, this is on the school route, and that part is accommodated. Okay. If you would just comment, is there anything in particular that you do to make the buildings more sustainable? Put in lighter color roofs or any special systems inside that make them better for the environment?
Well, I can tell you, again, I wish I could speak better to this, but I'm not capable because I'm not familiar with it. Every one of our homes are what they call ResNet Energy certified. So what that means is it's certified by the Residential Energy Services Network. They give it what they call a HERS score, which is a home energy rating system score. So the information that I got from our marketing people, and that's not my area, we have a 65 score on that index, which equates to a 40, they sell it 40% more efficient than a typical used home. So I don't know what that all involves, if that involves the installation. I'm just not into that area to articulate it any more than that, but they are ResNet certified, all the homes we build.
Yeah, we require it for the building code.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's terrific. All right.
Well, I think the one thing along those lines that we're all interested in, of course, is the green effect, the efficiency of the homes, and et cetera. And that has to do with not only the homes, but the trees in the area, the shrubbery, and et cetera. I know they've talked about color of roofing and things like that. And we want to make sure that we're doing what's best for our environment. We're excited about this. Can't wait for it to come about. Just want to make sure that we're all on the same page and we're thinking about the future of Michigan City and our environment as and people and in general.
This does put a little burden on the city as well, Skylar. I hope you're not sweating, but you know, just the idea of completing all of those routes, including bus routes to more remote areas like this, because you know, to the extent we can kind of push all that stuff forward, make it work for people. It makes it better for you too. You know, I'm sure in a remote area, if there's lots of ways that people can get around and they can see that the city wants that and move forward with it.
I live in a community, I live in Portage, Michigan. I was the city planner there for 22 years, and Skylar is right about Metro bus transit. We didn't have bus transportation in the city of Portage when I started there in the 90s. And as development came, we had a Walmart Supercenter, the mall expanded. We had, then all of a sudden these bus routes were added to the grid for Kalamazoo Metro Transit. So I do think they kind of go where the demand is. They don't go there until there's something there that needs it. And we do the same thing with when I was there with our sidewalk and trail system. We try to build that into our capital improvement every year to try to fill it in where you can. And it doesn't happen overnight, but over the course of, you know, a long period of time, you can kind of get a nice walkable, connected community. So.
Well, thank you for so nicely listening to all of our comments. Absolutely. And hopefully this sort of discussion, which comes about with all of us, you know, from different backgrounds and stuff, have these concerns, and hopefully it will help you as well as the city to move in those directions, because it's better for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Ross Balling, and my first thoughts on the 5-year plan, or a little bit longer plan, is would you guys be available to build any sand volleyball courts, to build more of a community on the land that's not being built? Because we have tons of sand in the marketplace, and some of your largest developments across the country have used different parks to enrich the teenagers in the marketplace. So just one suggestion I have: I love your plan. I'm all for it, but I do think as you grow organically that you guys would consider using some of that space temporarily for active programs such as sand volleyball or something like that. So that would be only my suggestion, is while you're building, you know, phase 1, that phase 2 or 3 area would be actually easily developed into something that people can use.
We can definitely consider that. I know our construction schedules, usually if things are going well, we piggyback them on pretty close. So we'll be under construction with phase 1, and when we're halfway through phase 1, we're on to phase 2. So we could do something as a temporary basis, maybe, probably nothing with permanent structures, but maybe something temporary. I can talk to our construction guys about that.
Yep. It's easily done. Just dig about a foot down and you got sand. So we welcome you guys to Michigan City, and hope everything goes well tonight.
Thank you.
I have one last question on the site plan. Is Outlot D, is that protected in any way? It looks like the kind of a retention area.
Oh, right here. I'm sorry.
Is it fenced in, or how do you handle something like that?
It would be open. The slopes will be graded such that it'd be 4-to-1 and meet the criteria for the safety standards that are set in place. Whether that's benching, the slopes are designed for safety measures in those situations.
But it's for water retention,
yes,
right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So those are protected. I think the sanitary district gets involved in that from the standpoint of like you got to keep it. You can't build on it, things of that nature.
Oh, no, I wasn't thinking that. It was just that if it becomes full of water or whatever, then it's a dangerous.
Yeah, and it is designed to hold water, yes. So typical of any residential drainage system, they're designed to hold water, retain it, and slowly release it back into the groundwater as kind of a good practice BMP that is established through most of the drainage. It's done all over the place. What is critical to it is addressing the slopes down into it to ensure that there's a safety ledge that's put in place, and we'll work through the city's engineering department to ensure that we have met all this criteria.
I was just thinking more along the lines of the danger that be there if it starts to fill in or stay filled in because of, you know, all the crazy weather that or events that we have, and that, you know, what used to be a 100-year rain is.
Yeah. So this
it's more commonplace now.
This is actually oversized to accommodate more of a 200-year storm, to allow for that extra overages that we're seeing more often now. So we are over designing to some degree to allow for that, and it's still to meet the criteria. So it's a back-to-back either 100-year event or 200-year event rainfall. But we'll be working with the city engineering to accommodate those needs. And then, of course, with the HOA that would be established here, they'd be responsible for the different maintenance, and Mike can speak to that a little bit more.
Okay. Mayor Perry, sorry. I noticed you moved back to the microphone. Did you want to say anything?
The report from Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to tell you that we will extend transit out there. The CEO of the city, we will have municipal transit to bring that into our town. I'll guarantee that.
Yeah, that would help. And is there, Skylar, is there anything that you need to report on?
Yeah.
To add in?
If you want, would you like for me to read the report?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
cool. Then we can probably go to public or yeah. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, we're good. I'll read my report. Okay, this is Michigan City Plan Commission, May 23rd, 2023, case number 90123, Woodland Ridge Primary Subdivision. They're requesting a primary plat approval of a major subdivision. So staff analysis. The land in question is 32 acres of vacant land located along South Woodland Ave, North 900 West and Paz Road. The land is zoned R1C single family residential and is currently being used for agricultural uses. Land is relatively flat and has no tree canopy. Land is also not located in a floodway or floodplain, and no wetlands have been identified on the land as well. The development is well connected to public rights of ways and near local and regional retail locations. Utility locations have been confirmed and are near the site and available for expansion. All the proposed streets will be dedicated to the city as right-of-way and accepted into the city inventory of streets. The land is well suited for a large single-family subdivision. The Michigan City Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map labels this piece of land as suburban general residential, which has less openness in general as homes are spaced closely together, and typically these homes are located on small lots that are part of a larger subdivision located around the edge of the city or in locations that are disjointed from more urban dense areas. Comprehensive Plan also labels this area as a primary growth area, sequencing and growth between 2018 and 2025. The plan also identifies this area as a future development center with potential nodes of commercial at the Paz Road and Woodland Ave intersection, and the specific land in question is called out for residential development. Future thoroughfare plan, future thoroughfares, bikeways, and pathways are planned to service this area as it grows. Two housing studies have identified the need for new single-family housing in Michigan City and the missing spectrum of new suburban housing, which this proposed development and housing typology will address. The developer is requesting a waiver for the requirement of a sidewalk along South Woodland Ave, but will be dedicating a space for future sidewalk or shared use pathway to be constructed at a time when the road is being upgraded. There will be sidewalks within the subdivision to allow internal pedestrian circulation. A modification is being requested for a sidewalk to only be installed on one side of the right-of-way. The developer also requested a modification for street trees to be placed in the individual lots rather than in the right-of-way grass areas. This modification will allow the trees a greater degree of survival, and maintenance would be on the owner or the HOA rather than the city forester. Although the petitioner did not request an open space modification, the planning department is recommending a modification to allow for a 0.4 1/3 acre, about 14,400 square foot park to be provided for a central gathering space for the community as shown on the site plan. The modification is needed due to the large requirement, which requires 1,000 square feet per lot be set aside as a park. This would require for approximately 2.6 acres of land to be set aside for a park and be maintained by the HOA. This would significantly reduce the number of lots in this subdivision and adversely affect the housing need in Michigan City. Planning staff is recommending that we allow the developer to incorporate the proposed park as the modification. Staff recommendation. Staff recommends approval of the primary plat and the following modifications and conditions. Modifications. A sidewalk waiver for South Woodland and the Woodland Ridge subdivision shall provide. A sidewalk waiver for South Woodland and the Woodland Ridge subdivision shall provide for sidewalks to be constructed on one side of each internal street, not on both sides, and shall be connected to provide for a continuous walkway between street intersections. Modification of the size of the required park area to require a 1/3 acre park in lieu of the required 2.6 acre as shown on the primary plat. Conditions. The sanitary department is requesting that we work with them on an easement for that. I feel like we addressed that, but I don't know if it's shown on the plat. We just need to address that. And then the second one, we will work with the city engineering and planning department on a streetlight plan, which will be incorporated into the secondary plat. The final declaration shall include a provision that purchasers and all subsequent landowner or lot owners shall be required to plant, maintain, and replace at least one tree in the front yard, and that the association of owners shall be required to maintain a common park area. And finally, the park shall be built in the first phase of the development.
Mr. Hale, you were supposed to come before us. I apologize.
Gigi, may I read one more thing? I'm sorry, Madam President. The sanitary district takes no exceptions. These are comments from departments. Sanitary district takes no exceptions to the primary plat, except that no sewer easement appears to be shown on the east side of Woodland Ave. Such an easement needs to be 10 foot wide, each side of the existing sewer main. Approval of the sewer main as shown to serve the 114 lots shall be subject to the developer's determination and demonstration of sufficient available hydraulic capacity, which we've been told there is capacity there. We just need to do that. And that's just something we do in the process. And then the water department, the department takes no issues with this subdivision primary plat. Details concerning utility location and construction shall be continued. So continue to be discussed with final determination to be made at a future date when the department and the developer, and I believe you guys are in constant contact with them about size and capacity. And we have went through development review for this subdivision. So all the other departments, fire, water, sewer, planning department have made comments back to them about what was proposed at that time.
With regards to the sanitary sewer easement that's being asked for, currently there is sanitary sewer there. However, the current line runs right under the right of way and portions of it run on the actual property in which the developer is developing. So the request there by the sanitary department, sewer department, is to grant that easement. Similarly, the water department, as we bring water south, because of separation standards that we have to meet, the water is also going to be granted an easement to the east of that sanitary line, which is what you see in the graphic as being a nice large green strip along Woodland Ave. So we are accounting for those. We had conversations with both departments already to accommodate those needs, and we plan to work with them further to accommodate those measures.
Can you tell us, can the easement be planted or with anything other than grass? But
yes,
could there be trees or shrubs?
So in our development plans, we are planning on having a nice landscape buffer there. The major reason behind that is we have backyards abutting. We have double frontages basically abutting the street there. So we are planning on doing a subtle berm. We got to be careful because of the water depths and whatnot, but we want to try to do a subtle berm with vegetative planting and trees to accommodate that. Yes.
Okay.
I have a question for you. This is regarding the conditions. It looks like there will be lighting as part of the second plat. Is that the
Correct.
second phase? So during the first phase, the completion of the first phase, there will
No,
be
no, no, no.
lighting on Woodland?
No, between now and when they have to come back to us for secondary plat approval.
Okay,
Between that time, we'll get all that engineered. So we have to engineer the roads, engineer the sewer, engineer the water, engineer our lighting, and then sidewalks as well.
Okay.
That'll all be put on. So we'll get all that done, get it signed off on, accepted by the respective departments. And then they'll ask for secondary plat approval, which that will basically
address the lighting as well.
yeah, it will all
Okay.
be basically designed and signed off on by the various departments before they come back to us for secondary plat approval.
Okay, thank you.
They have a year to get that done between now and so, but they don't intend on taking the whole year. I know that. So
Okay, thank you.
Madam President, I'd like to give my attorney report. It's for petition number 901-23 sub 1. The petitioner is Mike West and Green Development Ventures LLC. The owners of the property are Elizabeth J. Peel and Robert E. Johnson Jr. The engineer surveyor on this project is Evan Marsh Consultants, Inc. The request is ultimately for approval of a major subdivision. The petitioner is requesting tonight a primary plat approval of this major subdivision. A project like this involves many things, and the first step is to prepare a plan and discuss it with your planning department, which has been accomplished. Then the petitioner files his primary plat for consideration by this body and a public hearing, which will occur next. Following that, the Plan Commission will make a decision whether or not the primary plat meets all the requirements of our subdivision ordinance, and may, if it wishes, add conditions and modifications to this primary plat. After that, the petitioner will be putting together all of his infrastructure and meeting, as Mr. York just said, with all the various departments to have them approve the installation of all the superstructure and infrastructure. When that is done, it's all put onto paper in the form of a secondary plat, which is the final plat, which is the one that is signed off and recorded at the end of all of this process. So we will have Mr. White and Steve Ruby here again to present to us the secondary plat, and we'll see that these things have been done. Some of those will include, if you so choose, the conditions that might be added to any approval if you make that decision. So that is the process. I put in my report, which you have a copy of in front of you, that you have certain standards to consider when you make a decision about this. But the primary purpose of this is to determine that this meets with the requirements of our subdivision ordinance. And your planning department has indicated that it does and has asked, though, for these conditions and modifications. I want to make three final points. The first point is that I put in my report a long list of all the materials that are included in this record. Some of these came after the initial packet was delivered to you prior to our meeting last month. And so you may want to consider, take a look at those, especially the materials that came with 2 emails that were submitted and passed on to you. But the primary document is the one that you've been looking at, that new plat that was submitted in the last couple of days. That shows some changes that the petitioner has made. So that is what's being approved or considered tonight. One with the green park and the green colors on it and the divisions into phases. In the original packet, there was a declaration. We talked about, or Mr. York has talked about the declaration. He wants that to be changed when they come for secondary plat approval, so that it includes some requirements on the homeowners and the homeowners association to properly maintain things, and make sure those trees are going to get planted. That's in exchange or trade for a requirement of putting trees in the sidewalk area. So that's point one. Point two, you'll recall that we were here last month and we were scheduled to hear this matter. And it didn't happen because we couldn't verify that proper notice was made for this hearing. I have reviewed that material since then, and I can tell you that the petitioner has met his requirements and our notice requirements have been met, and you're free to consider this matter tonight if you wish. And finally, I would like the opportunity to suggest some language if there's a motion to be made following the public hearing and any further comments that you may have or any further comments that the petitioner might have. Those are my three final points. Thank you.
We have to help you in framing that.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yes, okay.
But I think it'd be appropriate to open this up for public comment at this time and allow anyone, and I would just remind you, madam, that there is someone on Zoom or call in that wishes to ask a question or make a comment. So be sure to open it up to that person.
And before we do that, I want to correct something that I said for your benefit, Mr. West. If you build a sidewalk, it's got to be accessible. I don't know the extent to which you must build them, and I want to make sure you check all the codes and standards. Right. That's all. I don't want to make you scared of something that
Steve keeps us in line.
Yeah, right. And I haven't checked lately, so yeah, I wanted to just be sure. Oh, so we are now open for public comment.
Yeah, this is Tommy Kolovic from 1316 Ohio Street. I'm somewhat familiar. This reminds me a lot of the Water Tower Place subdivision in Westville. We had a house there that was built in 2010. You need to be aware that a lot of these builders, they like to cut corners. I remember about 10 years ago, they had an ordinance. They wanted to put carbon monoxide detectors in all new home constructions, but that failed. I feel every one of these units, they should have a carbon monoxide detector in the basement area. If you have a carbon monoxide leak in your furnace, somebody will come over, you'll find the whole family dead. The other thing we have with this house is the run on the clothes dryer vents. The clothes dryer vents, they should be made of, they should be like 4-inch hard pipe. And they got the code is you can't be more than 25 feet in length. And if you have like an elbow in your clothes dryer vent, you take away 5 feet and you have a 45-degree angle. You can't go over that 25 feet tolerance. You take away 2.5 feet if there's a 45-degree. But the other thing, if you go over that, you have to have a booster fan installed, because if your dryer vent gets stuffed with dryer lint, your clothes won't come dry and that'll cause a dryer vent fire in your house. I'm on the Fire Merit Commission. I think that's really important to me. The other thing they need to realize, those driveways they had, this Water Tower Place subdivision, they're only 30 foot long. Like, you can't back 2 cars in. We have an ordinance here that you can't park your cars over your sidewalk. And we have a ordinance how the directions of our vehicles got to be parked. And the other thing is, people, you can't have chickens in the city unless you're 200 feet from your neighbor or on more than 2 acres, have more than 3 acres of land. So I think those are a lot of things that we need to consider when, because we haven't had a subdivision like this going in decades. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else that wanted to say anything?
Michigan City Mayor Dwayne Perry. Good evening, Madam Chair, Commission members. I stand before you to speak strongly in support of this project. The entire country is in need of housing. We're behind. We've done a study. We've looked at the numbers. This project is integral and it's vital to our development plans for the future of Michigan City. It does appear to be a little bit remote, but development spawns development. And by the time this developer moves on to the final phases, you will be surprised at how many businesses open up in that area to support quality of life. So I respectfully ask that you support this. This is very important to the future of Michigan City. Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any additional comments?
Excuse me, I had one question. Skylar, on your recommendations on the modifications, the original statement references the sidewalks on one side of the street. And I understand that's, if I understood correctly, that's what they originally said, that's what they were going to do.
Just to, Mr. Klinder, just to confirm, you want just me just to clarify that?
Yeah.
Yes, it is what they said they were going to do. I just put it in our conditions to make sure that it actually gets done. Is that the
good? Thank you.
And just so you know, what we do is we for all the commissioner members, we give them a standard street cutaway, if you will. Forget what we call it. Cross section. Sorry, it's been a long day here. Cross section. It'll show sidewalk, street, sidewalk. Show how it's built. Width of sidewalk, width of street, width of. It shows it all on there. That's what these. That's what the developers alluding they're going to do. They're just asking for a modification to only show one side of the street sidewalk. So it'll have to meet all that's ADA standards. We check all that, and our city engineer will go over all that with them. But that's what they're, yes, just for clarification. Yes, we just put it in the condition to make sure it gets done.
Good. I'm glad I was able to read and listen and hear all at the same time.
Good for you. All right. We'll want to vote on this. And Mr. Hale, do you want to propose some conditions for that vote?
Well, I think that it's up to your members to make a motion, and then perhaps we can work on shaping it a little bit if needed.
I'll make a motion to approve primary plat approval for case number 90123, including the two conditions. I'm sorry, the two modifications and 4 conditions recommended by the plan department.
Second.
Okay, that is what we needed.
I will call for the vote. I'm sorry, Madam President. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was going to suggest you do just to that. Thank you.
I will call for the vote. Mr. Balling?
I approve, yes.
Mr. Dabney?
Yes.
Mr. Granquist?
Yes.
Mr. Klinder?
Yes.
Mr. Latchford?
Yes.
Ms. Mealy?
Yes, I approve.
Ms. Tejeda?
Yes.
Approved. Motion approved. Thank you for your presentation.
There you go.
Thank you very much. We're excited to be building here in Michigan City. Thank you very much.
Glad you came back.
Excited to have you. Yeah.
Madam President, would you like for me to introduce the next one?
Thank you, Commission.
Yes, if you would, could. Oh, the next one. Thank you, Mayor.
And Skylar.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Mayor.
The petition, I'd like to announce that I'll recuse myself from participation in this petition due to conflict of interest.
You good with that? Okay, sounds good. I will introduce this petition. The next petition is 900-23 and 900-23-2 and 900-23-3. 900-23-2 is a request by Beach Walk Property Owners Association, Inc., Beach Walk Conservation, Inc., and BP21 LLC for final site plan approval of an amendment to Beach Walk Phase 3B PUD, Quezon Park, to add real estate for the purposes of further orderly development and enhancement of the PUD, and 900-23-3, which is a request for primary plat approval of a major subdivision known as Beach Walk Phase 3B PUD Quezon Park, referred to as WP21 lots, consisting of approximately 2.71 acres to be subdivided and developed as 14 lots. Tonight, they'll be represented by Attorney Christopher Willoughby, and I'll hand the floor over to Ms. Attorney Willoughby.
Hello again. As Mr. York said, I'm Christopher Willoughby, Brady Nelson and James at 126 East 5th Street, here on behalf of Beach Walk Property Owners Association, Beach Walk Conservation, Inc., and WP21. With me tonight, I have Hashem Khalil from Global Engineering, who I will defer to for any technical questions you may have with regard to the plat that's before you, as well as Nazar Pripkov, that is the developer who has been before you before and received previous permissions, but as we've discussed at quite a length at a previous meeting, we've essentially taken what he's done there, and we're adding 14 lots, we're adding lots of green space, and we're adding some parking. Those are the three major things that we're doing if you approve the final concept plan and allow Beach Walk to continue to develop in with regard to, I guess, the initial calling and initial development of trying to preserve nature and existing within the dunes that are there. And with this new development, also being mindful of the existing long-standing community along Washington Park Boulevard. So that was the challenge. I don't think much of a challenge because that was always in the works. If you recall, you unanimously approved and sent to with favorable recommendation before to the Common Council of our preliminary concept plan. We went through that process before the council and received unanimous approval of the amendment to the PUD, and the ordinance was passed, recorded, which puts us back to you we have before you a dual application tonight. So we believe that, so again, as Skylar said, we were seeking your final approval. We believe we've met your conditions, and obviously we'll have some, I presume, some questions to answer with regard to those conditions that you set forth, and the council also was mindful of, and they approved, subject to your conditions for final approval of the concept plan that allows that PUD to be amended. As you can see, there's a pretty long history of different changes within this community, and this will be the most recent. And then moving forward to allow a preliminary or seeking preliminary approval of the primary plat of subdivision. Without rehashing, because we did it at length, and I if it's appropriate, I would like to incorporate by reference the previous report by the city planner that went through and discussed the qualifying conditions of Article 25 with regard to the PUD and the amendment, which allows us to be here, which allowed us to go before the council, which permits us to come back here. Overall, we believe we also meet all of the subdivision requirements as in terms of as a result of our meetings and our discussions with the planning department. And as you can see before you have that primary plat, the only any exceptions or waivers are anything is set forth as depicted, which is really only as to setbacks. Yes. So other than that, everything else will be subject to, in addition to what the city code is, the standards that are part of Beach Walk, as well as its declarations and those, I guess, special restrictions or rules that have been put in place for the new lots. So with that, I also believe that you have the renderings of the model homes. And from there, I don't want to take up more time because I will defer to any technical questions you have. I did at a difficult time, and I know they're busy at the News Dispatch. We did previously submit our notice things, and I'll defer to your attorney. But today is the first time I'm providing him in the file a copy of our publishing affidavit, which we just received today. So other than that, I will defer.
I went out of order before. The next comments would be from the Department of Planning. Do you have anything that you want to say?
Well, mine covers both.
May I interrupt just for a moment, Madam President? As Mr. Willoughby just explained to you, this is a two-stage request. That is, there are two things that are being asked of you. They're different, and they have different standards. And so it's my suggestion that Mr. York and I talk about the first one, and when that is completed and voted upon, we can talk briefly about the second one. It just strikes me that that might be more comprehensive.
Excuse me, could you define what the two different provision proposals are?
The petitioner is asking, I'll start this way. You remember 2 months ago at our March meeting, we had a lengthy meeting about approval of an amendment to the Beach Walk Phase 3B, known as Cason Park, PUD. We had a discussion, and we sent that on to the Common Council with a favorable recommendation that they approve the preliminary PUD site. That's the name of it, PUD site. But it included plans and that sort of thing. It isn't just this location. That what we were presented with included how they were going to subdivide it at the south end, and how they were going to incorporate two very large pieces into it called vacant and conservation. And all of that was presented to you. And so the ordinance that deals with PUDs requires, again, a two-step process, just like subdivision. So you approve preliminary site approval. They are required by our ordinance to come back for secondary site PUD approval. And that's the first request. Now, they don't have to, but in addition, as they've told us all along, they want to add or subdivide into 16 lots, 14 buildable lots, and 2 large parcels that we've called the conservation and the vacant lot. So that's the second issue. Do you approve the preliminary plat? And you've just done that, the earlier request. So you understand a little bit about that. So that's what they are. Sorry I took so long.
No, thank you very much.
Okay. So what we would address first, because it just makes common sense, is the request for final PUD approval for the Phase 3B Cason Park PUD as part of Beach Walk.
Skylar and Mr. Hale, the thing that I remember most about that event hearing 2 months ago was our concerns about the street and the back of the house has been garages and stuff being on the street. And I see from the plans that there are garages on that street. And so is that to be addressed in part 1 or part 2? I think we may still have some questions about that.
Well, I think it would be appropriate for you to review it and ask your questions tonight at this review. And I'm sure that the petitioner submitted those drawings that you have as an attempt to talk to you about those concerns. And you may have additional questions for the petitioner about that and can address it in whatever fashion you would like. You'd have to tell me what your concerns are and we could go further.
I think Madam Chair was asking, are those questions appropriate in the first final approval PUD phase 3 or the second?
The first thing that we're going to talk about tonight.
Okay.
That's final site approval for the PUD.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. And this is a Michigan City Plan Commission, May 23rd, 2023, case number 900-23. This is actually 2. I'm sorry, I have 1. It's 2. Amendment to Beach Walk Phase 3B, Quezon Park final site plan approval. The request is for approval of the final PUD site plan, and well, for this report, just the site plan, final PUD site plan. Staff analysis. On March 28th, 2023, Plan Commission granted approval of the preliminary PUD site plan and forwarded the request to the Common Council with a favorable recommendation. On April 18th, 2023, the Common Council unanimously approved ordinance number 4678, which effectively amended the Beach Walk Phase 3B PUD, more commonly known as Quezon Park, as recommended by the Plan Commission. Following those approvals, the applicant submitted plans and renderings for potential homes to be constructed on the lots as requested by the Plan Commission. Section 25.10 of the zoning ordinance directs the Plan Commission to apply the standards of Section 25.08, which actually we used for the original preliminary site plan approval. These standards were found to be met at the time of preliminary PUD site plan approval. The plan director has found that the final PUD site plan as submitted has not significantly changed from the preliminary PUD site plan. Staff recommendation. Staff has reviewed the submitted final PUD site plan and recommends approval.
Madam President, may I present?
Oh, please, yes.
Initially, I want to tell you that I had an opportunity to review all of the notice provisions that are required to be submitted for tonight's meeting, both questions. And I find that the petitioner has met all of our requirements for notice. I'm doing this for a different reason. It has nothing to do with tonight's presentation, but we've recently changed our notice requirements. That's what I had to go through and cross-check back and forth. And that's what our new ordinance requires. It's a job.
Thank you.
However, the petitioners met all the requirements. I had a chance to look at them, not because they sent them to me in electronic form before this. I've really given my report about this, but my attorney report for petition number 900-23 sub 2, the applicant's petitioners are the 3 owners of the property, Beach Walk Property Owners Association, Inc., Beach Walk Conservation, Inc., and WP21 LLC. They're requesting in this stage the final PUD site plan approval for this addition to Beach Walk Phase 3B for the area known as Cason Park. So I told you how we got here, and we had a meeting 2 months ago, and it's been approved by the Common Council. I want you to note a couple of things. One, I did attach again a list of all the materials that the petitioner supplied us, and it's an extensive list, again, with a lot of material, and it includes site plans or what I would call a footprint and some elevations, and then some pictures of potential dwelling. Madam President, you asked about that issue about what are these things going to look like along Washington Park Boulevard. And so it's appropriate to talk about that and ask you questions. However, our zoning ordinance says that for PUDs, the approval is found for final site approval in section 25-10. And what it does is say, go back to section 25.08, which were the standards for the preliminary site approval. So I've given you a copy of that. With my report, if you want to refer to it, you may. Those are the standards that you are to apply in considering approval of this project. Again, we've separated this off, so the first approval will be limited to final site plan approval for the PUD. And if you have any questions about an appropriate motion, you may ask me.
Real quick, if somebody could, I wasn't at the March meeting, and I read the minutes as best I could, and had to do with the facing of the facility, the homes and etc. Is that have been Tyler? Has that been satisfied?
I mean, with the renderings that I'm seeing, I mean, I have to look at it from a standpoint of like, it's not, if it wasn't part of the PUD, would I approve these houses? I would approve these houses if they were not part of a PUD. I hope that makes sense. Like, if this wasn't part of a PUD and there was 14 single family lots and they came with a site plan like this, or one of these site plans, I would approve that if it met the setbacks. Does that make sense? Like,
would you answer another question? How many parking spaces?
They have to have 2 off-street parking spaces per zoning code.
So one being in the garage and one being in the driveway.
Doesn't matter where it is. It just cannot be on public. It has to be on site. Yes, and keep in mind, one of the things was I think we conditioned can't park on Washington Park Boulevard because we're going to eventually have a bike lane coming through there.
I have a few questions.
Did I answer your question? I'm so sorry.
Yes, I'd like to discuss that a little bit more, but we can move on to someone else's questions. That's okay.
Okay, so it appears to me that Jasmine and Aries are the only 2 designs that do not have garages. Is that correct? Because it appears on the plan on S4 that there are driveways going to what is the rear of the house, yet there are no garages.
Hello, I'm Nazar Krivko, president of VP21 LLC. So regarding your question, as you can see, the plat, 14 lots are not the same. They go from smaller to bigger one.
Yes.
So I believe per my and Hisham calculation, 7 of the smallest lot, they just cannot fit physically garage. So there's going to be no garage on the first 7 lots. It's going to be just not even driveway. It's going to be like a stripes for the wheels that going to hold 2 cars.
Okay.
So
okay.
we have,
the plan was
so we have better water drainage. We don't put whole concrete.
So like the old-fashioned driveways.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was concerned about that. So I was like, it's a driveway going to the back of the house. So that's good. So it's basically parking off street
Yeah, there is no parking on Washington Boulevard. It's prohibited. So we're gonna have 2 parkings on the driveway, and then Beach Walk adding this extra parking on their land, which gonna accumulate all extra cars that gonna come to the subdivision.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
May I add one more thing about parking? So right now, because of the demand, I mean, we've all been through Beach Walk in the summertime. Let's just be really honest here. We've seen the demand for parking. It's very overtaxed. A few years ago, the BPOA took it upon themselves to basically create a parking area that could accommodate extra cars so that they're not all parked in front of one house. And that was done for, it was really done because of fire code. Our fire department was having a hard time getting in there, ambulances, trying to make sure we're maintaining 16 feet of right of way to get through. It was just became very cumbersome. So they created an overflow parking area as part of this PUD review in our, in the actual document. We made sure that we put that any excess cars wouldn't be parked on Washington Park Boulevard. They would be parked at the overflow parking, essentially, which is what that is for, essentially.
Actually, I have one more question. Just because these weren't labeled, I can kind of make sense of this as Axios.
Yes.
Okay, and then between Jasmine and Aries, because this kind of looks like Axios too.
This is Axios. This I think this is an old picture. You're supposed to get a new picture with the screened porch for the Axios.
Okay, that's this one.
Yes, correct.
Okay,
This is the correct picture.
Okay.
So this one is was unfinished. We still was working on it.
Okay, so is this Jasmine or Aries?
This is Aries.
Okay, and do we have Jasmine?
Yeah, we're supposed to have it. It's a blue one. Yep.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So I just want to underscore the question that Mr. Hito was asking about the cars, and Skylar, this really goes to you. These are 5-bedroom units and all, so likely 10 people staying there. There's going to be a lot of cars, and so you're confident that operationally it works because Washington Boulevard is not like one of the streets within the development. It's a street unto itself, and so perhaps not patrolled by pedestrians in the same way the other streets are. So, but the cars will not be on that street. You're confident that
they can't be. It'll be prohibited, like by
with signage and stuff like that.
Well, we're going to put a bike lane there eventually. That's being designed right now.
Okay.
The developer will be putting in sidewalks as part of this, curb gutter sidewalks. And we even in the original, so you might recall, this developer has been before us. This will be his second time. He came through with a first primary plat, but during that, and we approved it. And at that time, we said no parking on Washington Park Boulevard. But in between that time, between primary and secondary, he went and negotiated with the Beach Walk Property Owners Association. Now he's being folded into Beach Walk. So my point in saying all this is that we've always said no parking on Washington Park Boulevard. And actually it's a much thinner, it thins down to only 22 feet of pavement down there, where you have 58 feet of right of way, but it shrinks down. But he will be putting in sidewalks, and we still won't. We'll be patrolling, essentially. We won't allow parking. It'll probably be painted yellow, like no parking.
And
it'll be painted yellow. Yeah, it'll be painted yellow. Yeah, that's what we do to designate no parking.
And back to the question that came up before, there's walkways on Washington Park, sidewalks on Washington Park Boulevard, and some kind of walkway in the other areas. The Department of Planning will look at those again for accessibility purposes.
we design all of them to ADA standards.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, and maybe this is what the rest of the place is. I haven't seen the floor plans for any of the others. I mean, it shocks me to see a place of that with that many bedrooms in it, but so be it.
I'd like to make a comment because I know I was really concerned about what the facades were going to look like from the south, and they do look good. So thank you.
I would agree with that. I think they look pretty good from the Washington Park side. I mean, obviously, it's something I don't really get a say in necessarily, but I think they did a really good job accommodating what that looks like from the public realm when you're riding by it on a bike or walking by it. I think they look pretty sharp.
I do agree.
Yeah, as with the other development, is there any requirement about trees and plantings?
We require trees, but actually with this development, he probably will get tree credits because he's not clear cutting the lots. He literally is going to work these around. There's some significant trees there, and Mr. Krikov is very much aware of. He wants to make sure that these are nice lots, and that I think he thinks that the wooded area brings value to keeping some of the wooded area brings value. And I would definitely agree with him. So he's probably going to get credit. We only require one tree per lot to be planted per house. But with respect to that, 100-year-old oak is worth more than a 15-year-old maple any day. So.
And I want to add, our original name of the subdivision was the Beechwood subdivision, which incorporate beach and woods. So this is why we definitely want to keep as much as we can woods and trees.
And I hope you were listening to the comments before about designing things so that people who don't have full mobility can use them the same way as everybody else and can be out there and enjoy stuff. And it's to the benefit of the owners of the property because they welcome everybody who wants to come there. And I hope it's something you pay attention to also.
Yes, and if you look at the plans, it's like our home's not designed exactly for ADA, but all of our master bedrooms, they're on first floor. So this allows people with disabilities to get easy access to the building. And then all the secondary bedrooms pretty much on the second floor.
I did notice there were first floor bathrooms and bedrooms.
What that means is that the mother-in-law gets the master bedroom on the first floor.
Correct.
Yeah, we'll make that a requirement. Does anyone else on the board have any comments? Okay. Well, and then does anyone in the public have anything that they want? Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. So we may.
Is there anyone in the public that wishes to comment on this? Is there anyone viewing on call-in or Zoom? Call Michigan City.
Yeah.
Concerning chickens.
Okay.
Apparently, no person in the public wishes to address it.
Okay, so we would like to get a motion to approve this. And this would be to approve the plans as presented.
This is for a final site plan approval of the PUD only.
Okay, thank you for helping with that. I appreciate that. So.
Yes, I make a motion that we approve the final PUD site plan as proposed, as the staff has recommended.
I'll second.
Thank you.
I'll call for the vote. Mr. Balling.
Yes.
Mr. Dabney.
Yes.
Mr. Granquist. I'm sorry.
Abstain.
I'm so sorry. You abstained. I'm so sorry, Mr. Granquist. I apologize. Mr. Klinder.
Yes.
Mr. Latchford,
Yes.
Mr. Mealy, I'm so sorry, Miss Mealy, I'm so sorry, man.
Yes.
Miss Tejeda,
Yes.
sorry, it's been a long day. Motion approved.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Well, thank you for your putting up with all this process. It helps us a great deal. It helps the city too. I mean, this is another important piece of the city, so we want it to be successful and good for the neighborhood.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the same. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so the second piece of this is, I won't say it's more simpler, but it's definitely an important piece of this. So what we're approving next is the primary plat. So that creates the subdivision as laid out, as presented to us in that site plan. That makes sense? Okay. So that creates the 16 lots with 14 buildable lots. Leave it at that.
Okay. And Mr. Hale, do you have anything to say about that portion of this?
I would just add that the notice requirements have been met, as I indicated earlier, and that this is an entirely different request from the first one. This property that you're considering is now part of the Phase 3B PUD. Cason Park is what it's called, or the neighborhood, but it's part of the Beach Walk PUD complex. So now they're asking that they can subdivide this up into those lots. It's 16 lots because they're the two big pieces that they've added. That's huge open space that meets all of the requirements. And so you want to consider that, and you know that they will have to come back for final or secondary plat approval at some time in the future.
So do we have a motion to approve the,
Madam
are there
President.
any comments?
Madam President, would you like for me to read my report and then ask?
Oh, yes, please.
Let's do that. I prepared one for you. I mean, I still think we should go through it.
Oh, yeah.
Just to make some findings. This is a report from Michigan City Planning Commission, May 23rd, 2023, case number 923. This would be part 3 of Cason Park neighborhood subdivision. The request is for primary plat approval to create a new 16 lot subdivision located along Washington Park Boulevard, 14 buildable lots. Staff analysis. The property in question is currently vacant and was previously subdivided. The surrounding uses are single family residential and are zoned R1E to the north, south, and west, and M2 industrial to the east. On March 28th, 2023, the Planning Commission granted preliminary PUD site plan approval. The preliminary site plan approval included the concept plan for the subdivision, expanding the area included in Beach Walk Phase 3B, referred to as Cason Park, by adding these 16 lots to the Beach Walk Phase 3B PUD. Just want to note, sidewalks are required to be installed for all major subdivisions and are included in the primary plat. On April 18th, 2022, the petitioner did participate in Development Review Committee, and there were no concerns about utility connections or for this proposed subdivision. There is a permanent 20-foot sanitary easement that will be retained. The proposed preliminary plat meets the requirements of our subdivision ordinance. Staff has reviewed the subdivision and recommends approval of the primary plat.
Thank you. Okay. So, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Sham Khalil, Global Engineering at 601 Franklin Street. With regard to the report, it's the same exact thing as the site plan. I know it's the process and it's redundancy of the ordinance itself for the PUD. One thing in the report, It's really minor. Just I want to make sure that it's for the record. The sanitary easement is relocated with the same exact width. It just the pipe was not in the same easement. So I just want to make sure that's clarified. So other than that, thank you. If you have any questions.
What was that again?
The sanitary easement?
Yeah.
The existing sanitary easement, it's a relocated sanitary easement. So there was a legal description for the sanitary easement that it's outside of the pipe that was in the ground. So it's the same.
They basically put the easement where the pipe actually is located.
We're correcting actually the location of the easement. If you have any question, I'll be glad to answer. Thank you.
So does the board have any comments or questions?
Is there any time constraint when they have to be back for the secondary plat approval?
1 year. They have 1 year. But I don't think they'll take that long, but typically, I mean, well, in our code, 1 year.
Thank you.
Same as previous. Yep.
Madam President, I think it would be appropriate to open this up to public hearing if the board has no further questions.
Right. Are there any public comments? No, guess not. So if the board doesn't have any more questions, we need a motion to approve the new lot 16 parcel as part of the Beach Walk Phase 3B PUD. Okay, Sun Park. Have I said that right?
Yes.
The motion would be to approve the preliminary plat for the for this subdivision.
I'll make a motion.
I second.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Balling?
Yes.
Mr. Dabney?
Yes.
Mr. Klinder?
Yes.
Mr. Latchford?
Yes.
Miss Mealy?
Yes.
Miss Tejeda?
Yes.
Motion approved. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hopefully it doesn't take you a year, right? No, I was playing.
Thank you very much. Again.
These are my notes. Took me at least 6,000. You wanted this.
Yeah. Just told me it took me 6 hours.
Not yet. We have one more issue to tackle.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the document for that. Oh, thank you.
Should be in a formal resolution.
Yes.
So, the ERA.
So we have a matter of new business, which is or is this old business?
Well, if I had my, it's new business. Yes.
All right.
Sorry. Would you like for me to give kind of a overview of what exactly we're doing?
Please do. Yes. Thank you.
So every 2 years, I believe it's 2 years, we are a body that gives approval. It starts at the redevelopment commission, then it goes to the planning commission, then it goes to city council for final approval. The ERA it's actually an acronym. It stands for Economic Revitalization Area. What the ERA allows us to do, it allows us to use tools that can only be used inside the economic revitalization area. For our city, we declare all of our municipal boundary and any new annexed land as the ERA. The tools that we use inside that ERA that we can use that we can then approve our tax abatement, TIFs. There's a few other things regarding tax abatement, different ways to do that. But what it does is it allows us the flexibility to use those tools really wherever we need them within our city, wherever it's appropriate. So that's what this does. We're just one step in it. The next step would be then, I assume Mr. Bryant will then take it to council to get the ERA approved at the council level. And then that allows Mr. Hulse to work with council on tax abatements for any industries or expansion of businesses in Michigan City. It is a very important tool.
So no taxes are set aside or for anything. It's just it's more likely tools to encourage development.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. It is absolutely a tool for economic development. That's what it is. Yep.
Is this something that was created by Michigan City, or is this something that is a mandated?
It's a state-enabled legislation. All cities can do it if they so choose. There's different ways they can do it. We choose to do it this way for the flexibility, but it is state-enabled. Yeah.
Okay, good for us.
Yeah, we're lucky to have an economic development director who knows a lot about this and understands it, and knows how to implement these tools. Very, very good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, Mr. A little bit, Madam President. The resolution itself indicates a little bit of the history of the economic revitalization area, and it notes that the Common Council of the city passed a resolution on December 1st, 1987 that initiated this area. And subsequently, there was another ordinance and resolution that extended the benefits of the ERA to the entire city. It wasn't that way in the beginning. In April of 2022, the city also annexed some property, and that annexed property is pursuant to this resolution being brought in, and the entire economic revitalization area is being re-upped, if you will, or renewed. So we're doing those two things, if you will. And this is, as Mr. York explained, one of the tools that is really important to the city and offering opportunities to bring in business and so forth. I should mention this. You passed this on. The Redevelopment Commission initiated it. It comes to us with their recommendation that we approve it, and we pass it on to the City Council, and it is the City Council or the Common Council that finally passes the binding resolution. So I think an appropriate motion would be to approve the resolution and send the resolution on to the Common Council with a favorable recommendation that it passes.
I might also add that Mr. Hulse couldn't be here tonight. He's actually out of the country, and I told him I would take care of this for him.
Okay.
It's not like he's blowing us off.
Do any of the commissioners have any comments?
Yes. Well, comment, I guess the question is, in here, reading this, it references Exhibit A, and I didn't see Exhibit A, but the thing is that it has the annexing real estate situated between Paz Road, Johnson Road, Highway 20, but it doesn't give the eastern boundary, western boundary.
The western boundary probably is already may already be in the city. I'm not sure on that.
But it's more likely woodland, right?
I think the western boundary is just the property line, so there's no road there.
property line of this exhibit A.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's Highway 20 to the north, Johnson to the east, Paz to the south, but there's no road on the west side.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's given a general location rather than a legal description.
Right.
Yes, that makes sense too.
Thank you.
That was the 150 acres. It was annexed right in front of the high school. Just for clarification.
Question. So I don't think we have any further comments. I guess I need a
Madam President, if I may.
Oh, sure.
It is not required that you have public comment for a resolution, but it would be a nice thing to offer the public the opportunity to comment if they wish.
Oh, we absolutely do. Yes. And I forget that there may be somebody online too. So are there any comments from the public? Nor from the board. So we need a motion to approve this and to recommend to the council that they also approve it.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2-2023 and send it to the city council with a favorable recommendation.
I'll second that.
I'll call for the vote. Mr. Balling?
Yes.
Mr. Dabney?
Yes.
Mr. Granquist?
Yes.
Mr. Klender?
Yes.
Mr. Latchford?
Yes.
Ms. Mealy?
Yes.
Ms. Tejeda?
Yes.
Motion approved. Thank you.
I don't, there's no other new or old business that I'm aware of.
Not tonight. Not
Okay.
tonight. That was a lot of business.
Okay, okay. And then are there any public comments about anything that anybody would like to say? No? Okay. Our commissioner comments?
Yeah, this is Tommy Kolovic from 1316 Ohio Street again. Getting back to the Woodland Ridge subdivision. You know, if you're gonna have 250, 300,000, 350, you gotta keep the scrappers out of that subdivision. They need to pass the north. They come down my alley about 10 times a day. If you're gonna have a nice subdivision like that, I don't think you need to have people going through their refuse. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That'll go into the minutes. I hope they'll pay attention to that. It's an association, and they would have to make a ruling on their own for that sort of thing.
Essential to clean up the city. I put my nice better.
Oh God, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And if there's no comments from the commissioners, we can have a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Yes. I think we can say that's a unanimous for all members.
That was a good meeting.
We're all packing up. We're ready to move. Thank you.